Welcome. Thank you, Howard, for joining us. We are really excited to have you here, on Facebook Live with us on our page here this afternoon, or this morning. Feels like afternoon already. And just to, talk about our health summit and some of the things we're going to be hearing from you. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Yes. Welcome, Howard.
Meet the wonders of technology.
Oh, we got to turn you up just a little
Which one
bit.
is the volume?
Just a second.
We don't want to lose them again.
We don't want to lose ya.
We got to turn you up a little bit.
There. How's that?
Can you hear me now?
Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, Howard, you have a wide array of experiences and knowledge and things that you've been doing in the last few years, or actually your whole life as a farmer as well. And we'll leave some of the great details for the summit, but could you maybe tell us why you've decided to be an advocate and an educator on the topics of GMOs?
It wasn't by great plan or design. The thing that led me into alternative farming, which that's what it was called then, today it's biological or regenerative, was desperation. I started farming at probably the worst time you could have started in the last 50 years from an economic standpoint. Thankfully survived. We were just about back on our feet, and then the drought of 1988 hit. So in 1989, when I started using alternative farming methods, it was simply out of desperation. Because of how successful it was on our farm, by 1992, I decided to enter into the crop and livestock nutrition advisory work and share the information that I had experienced on our farm with other farmers that were interested.
Sure.
In 1994 is when I started studying genetically engineered crops. And the more I read and the more I learned, the more reason I felt for studying. We had started crop supply business along with the advisory, and it all sounded too good to be true. And if it is, maybe you better look at it objectively instead of euphorically. So we did that. Well, once the crops were actually out in production, the seed company in which we were working with at that time would provide us the seed to do a test plot every single year. When the genetically engineered crops first came out, they gave us one BT corn to put side by side with the conventional in the plot that we would have every growing season. And that PT number failed miserably. And it did not, then we offered it to livestock, which they refused it. And we thought, there's a lot more to this. Well, that research then just continued and continued and continued. And the educational part about genetically engineered crops just kind of happened on its own, I guess you might say, because of the educational work we were doing with the family farmers on helping them to better understand the soil and working with it instead of against it. And which that's been a blessing, because it's a never-ending learning curve. As you know, my email address is student of the soil. And the more I know, the more I know I don't know. So, but the beautiful part of it is the good Lord gave us this amazing creation to work with. And he does help us understand it. And when you understand how the soil is supposed to function, you understand how nutrition is supposed to work for the soil life, the plants, the animals, and the people. So it's harmonious as far as there's slight differences along the way, but it's really neat how the synergism from ground up affects everything beneficially or adversely, depending on how you treat it.
Sure. So what might have started as something just because of necessity at your farm has now become something that you can see benefits others at the same time.
Yes, and the thing that probably keeps me going more than anything else as far as the benefits is the benefit of the final product and the health of the people that are consuming what we raise on our family farm. We're in the food business. We're not in the commodity business. We're a small farm. We're diversified. And the difference between commodity production and food production, commodity production, your number one priority is to make money. And you do everything you can to be the least cost producer.
Sure.
My definition of food production is to do everything possible to produce the highest quality product possible.
Yeah.
And
Yay.
Yes.
We support that.
Absolutely.
You're on our page. Nice.
the 1990 something was when we sold the first quote unquote natural meat. And as I told Brenda on the phone the other day, there's really nothing special about our meat. It's just the way meat is supposed to taste. And regrettably,
Really good. She gave me a piece of your summer sausage.
regrettably, people don't know how meat is supposed to taste.
Yeah.
And I sold a half a pork to my 8th grade math teacher, who, when he first called me about what he wanted, I had no idea what he wanted. The phone rang one day and he said, "This is Melvin Persiman." I thought, oh no, he still hasn't forgotten what I did in math class one day. And he said, "My son has an allergy," and he described it, and the word name of the allergy was about a foot long in letters. And he said, "We've been getting organic meat out of Wisconsin for him, but he's still having problems, and we'd like to try some of yours." And I explained to him the differences of how we do and what we do and why we do. And that was before we had done the chemical residue certification analysis, which we did a couple years later, which helped explain the quality of what we had. Not only did we have nutrient density, but there was no chemical residue present in the soil or the feedstuffs we were feeding the animals. Well, he got that half a hog from the locker, and he calls me back 2 weeks after they had started eating it. And he was in tears on the other end of the phone shortly after I said hello. And he was thanking me for not only what it did for his son, but his wife had been told by the doctor 2 years previously to stop eating pork because she had ulcers. She could eat all of our pork that she wanted to without side effect. And that's when the light way back here in this dim corner started to flicker a little bit, that there was more to it than just taste, because that was the thing that we heard from people first when we'd give a package of meat to my wife's co-workers at the college they'd help her out, and she'd give them a package of meat. They said, "Boy, that really tastes good." Well, you don't have to have a lab analysis to have that of quality.
Right? Very true.
But to make that kind of change in somebody's life is huge.
Yes. Wow.
And that, today we have people that eat the eggs that we produce on our farm that are supposed to be allergic to eggs. And they're supposed to be allergic to this, and they're supposed to be allergic to that. And they can eat what we produce without ill effect or side effect. So what are they allergic to? The product or the way it's produced?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Well, Howard, the anticipation is growing on this end for the Health Summit coming in just a couple months. And would you share, give everyone a glimpse of what you'll be sharing with everyone that attends at the Cornerstone Health Summit come October? Some of the topics?
Well, first of all, this thanks to you fine ladies coordinating this. This will be the first time I've been able to do a tag team event with Dr. Perro.
Wow.
I've listened to her speak, and she's listened to me speak, and we were good friends before we ever met. And so I heartily thank you for that and this opportunity. I will be sharing the whole story, if you will, from the perspective of a farmer who's also evolved into a researcher and a published scientist on this subject. And I continue to be blessed to do ongoing research with scientists from around the world on different aspects of what we know is causing problems. And what I share, if it doesn't make people sit up and pay attention, they may not have a pulse because of how glaring the differences are.
Right.
Today, we're seeing more and more farmers, thankfully, transition out completely from a GMO production on their animals. And I've been privileged to work with a lot of operations that have done that. When they went into the use of the GMO feed, it was a slow progression of what became a new normal. But when they transition out and they have, as Dr. McNeil shared the other day, death loss goes from 20% to 1 pig out of 2,000.
Wow.
In the comparison, well, I've been privileged to work with operations that have had those similar effects, and the transition to the new normal of everybody being sick all the time, or okay, this is standard procedure that we're going to have to give shots, we're going to have to do this, and we're going to have to do that. That's not normal. And Dr. Perro, she says regrettably, kids being sick all the time is the new normal. Well, it doesn't have to, thankfully.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that they are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time today, Howard. Hardly wait. We would love to continue hearing you talk, but we can't give it all away. So we love your valuable information with us, and we look forward to meeting you in person. And that's just a few months away. It came up very fast. Howard, before the big day, is there just one last thing you want to tell us, or you want to tell those that are listening, besides come to the meeting with a pulse?
I highly doubt that anyone will have any level of disappointment, and I suspect that, thankfully, as always the case, there may be a high number of people leave this event equipped and enthused, energized, motivated, whatever you want to call it, to not only look at their health, but then have the ability to start to share information with others. And that's the greatest feeling that you can have when you can have a positive effect on somebody else's well-being for them and their family.
Right.
So I look forward to that day.
Yes.
We could have summed that up better ourselves.
That was
very good.
And that is our
excellent.
mission, to make a positive difference, one person at a time. So that was very, very well done. So
we appreciate your time again and the passion that you are showing, and we can hardly wait. And for those of you that are listening, tickets are still available at cornerstonehealthteam.com.